Greetings of peace and welcome. My name is Anthea Alexander. I am a coach and mentor who is based in Melbourne, Australia. And this lovely evening, I am joined by my beautiful colleagues and co-hosts that gather with me on Friday evenings when we're available to discuss topics that are basically wholesome topics and topics that are of interest or relevance at this timing, or perhaps in the future as well, because we not only gather and do the podcast live, and anybody is welcome to join us. Just reach out and ask for the link. We can share that with you. And also, you're welcome to access recordings or replays if you're not able to join us live. Okay, having said that, this evening we are going to be discussing part 2 of the unknown realms or worlds and the unseen. So we started this topic last week and we found that towards the end of the session, we still felt like we had plenty to talk about. So we made the joint decision to discuss it again this week. I think that's all I want to really say at this stage. So I'll hand it over to Rae now and she can introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me back. I love this group. I look forward to Fridays. So my name's Rae. I own a little pottery business called White Lily Urns. I'm situated in Atherton, which is on the Atherton Tablelands, just inland from Cairns in far north Queensland. We've got beautiful sunny autumn weather at the minute. It's a bit crisp, but it's fabulous and I love it. And it's great for making pottery. My background for most of my life, I've been a nurse. So for 35 something years, 30 something years, I was a nurse, which enabled me when I fell in love with pottery to use my skills in such a way that I end up making pottery for the funeral industry. So I make lots of cremation urns and angels and cats and weird stuff. Some of it's behind me. Yeah, so that's what I do all day. And I deal with a lot of people in grief, which is, I find, easy because of my background. So the whole circle of life doesn't bother me, but sometimes the supernatural can give me goosebumps and stuff. So yeah, I've got a few hospital-based stories and things to talk about tonight. Okay, over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Ray. My name's Michael. I'm based in the lovely Northern Rivers of northern New South Wales. And I've been joining in on the conversation for a few months now, along with Ray and with Anthea, Sanjva and Georgie, just to discuss topics of shared interest to us. And I'm looking forward to hearing a few more of those stories tonight. So I'll hand it over to Sanji.
Oh, thank you, Mike. Anthea, Rae. George is not here today, but she'll join in, and then maybe next time. So it's very nice we all gather like this and then discuss. So I'm a meditation teacher, and I do like online work, and I'm based in Sri Lanka. So I was a monk for a long time. So actually, we used to uh, meditate as well as actually do things regarding the unknown realms and so the supernatural part also. And then sometimes there are things like people get possessed, or like even some houses, hauntings, these like things. So we used to go and like bless them, or like they call protections, parita, chantings. So they would invite monks to go there. And but there are some beings who really don't want to go even if that even happens. So the other ways, like in these cultures, they believe in karma and merits. So it is said like for the beings who passed away, It could be our relatives or loved ones or anybody, even pets. But now they are new beings, no? And a new place. We don't even know maybe. So the only thing we can transfer is merits for them. So we cannot give physical items, no? Uh, but in some cases, like I will share some nice stories today. Ray also has a bunch of them. I'm sure everybody can talk a lot of things about it. So there were instances like this: somebody gets possessed by somebody, like as a being, and then they come through that human, and then they ask for different things. The one food they like to eat, things. So some like very dark ones ask for like alcohol and these kind of things, or raw meat. So these things are also happening. It's not just imaginary. And the way they eat and all, it's very gross. You cannot. It's not. It's beyond human. And you should see like these possessed people when they're eating, they just like put it on the floor and then like just try take it, apply it all over themselves, and their voice is totally different. And there are many people who have seen these sightings, no? And now with modern equipment, there are ghost sightings, no? So even in like ancient teachings, like they talk of many types, yeah, of beings. And people who kind of like elevate their minds, they can actually, because we just see from the physical eye, no? But when the mind becomes subtle and subtle, like the dream stage, we are not so caught up in the physical eye. Then it's more close to the sixth sense. Oh, it is the sixth sense, if you can know. Then what happens in that subtle stage, people can experience like their past relatives, or they can communicate. Some people use different kind of herbs and these kind of things also to communicate. Some people, they have their, these are called faculties. Yeah, faculties. That's the last time I was searching with another person the proper word. So faculties. So eye faculty, ear faculty, like that. The sixth sense also acts like a faculty. Like we say medical faculty, engineering faculty. It's like prominent in that section. Uh, so likewise, what happens is then it opens up and then they start seeing what the average person doesn't see, or they don't witness. Okay, I will talk about this. I'll hand it over to Anthea. Anthea, you also please introduce yourself, no?
You're asking me to introduce myself?
Yeah, you tell some bit more, no, about.
Okay. So, basically, I grew up in Melbourne and I've always been fascinated in supernatural. And my interests have basically been encouraged to an extent through my parents and aunties and uncles and sisters and things like that. And I have always, however, as Sanji's talking about, known that there is a side of things that is not like can be evil or dark. So I'm very aware of doing things in a protected way. And having said that, I'd just love for us to perhaps, before we sign off today on the session, to give people some advice about where to go if they're perhaps wanting to learn more about these topics in a beneficial way, or to seek help if they're experiencing, or their friends or family are experiencing issues with these topics, so that they can get some help that's going to be beneficial. What else can I say about myself? So I basically I support women, encourage women, empower women and everybody to basically become sovereign in their health. And there's so many different levels of health. We could spend a whole session on that easily. But the three areas that I focus on are physical, mental, and financial. So that's basically what I do. And I love people. I love working with people, always have. I love nature. I love animals. And very interested, as I said, in unseen realms, including meditation, dream interpretation, lots and lots of different topics. Okay, now, so last week we talked about the unseen and we gave examples of the unseen. So we talked about from different traditions or faith perspectives that there are all sorts of different beings that we can't see with our traditional senses. So there's celestial beings, there's ghosts, depending from which tradition you come from. Celtic people in Ireland talk about leprechauns. Celtic people also talk about fairies and gnomes. And in the Islamic tradition, they talk about jinn. I believe that's where the word genie comes from, because jinn are unseen creatures that may be beneficial, or they may have little less sort of wholesome, what's the word, intentions. So there's all sorts of things out there, UFOs, we talked about aliens, and I'm sure that my other colleagues will touch upon them as well. So basically tonight we will fill in some more gaps and talk about some more stories and experiences. I also wanted to share that when I was a teenager, we used to stay out in country Victoria, and it was very dark, and there weren't street lights as such, because it was basically in the middle of nowhere near a lake. So we stayed with my aunt and uncle, and my uncle was a professional fisherman, and they used to have a generator for electricity. So they'd put the generator on at night, and we would stay there, yeah, during most school holidays, because my mother was working full time to look after our family after my dad had had a traumatic accident, and he could no longer work full time and take care of the family. So my mum did that. So my auntie and uncle looked after us. And we had a ball. We did so much physical activity during the day. We went fishing with my uncle. We did all sorts of things. But at night we would, and I remember my aunt having all these amazing books that I think she'd ordered from Reader's Digest or somewhere, that were on UFOs and aliens and spontaneous combustion and all these sorts of things. So I used to read all of these books, and fairy tales, volumes and volumes on fairy tales, which I still am entranced by. Anyway, we used to have seances. So the adults would set up the seances, but they would rig them so that they would have, like, one of the fellow fishermen that worked with my uncle would like be dragging chains on the concrete outside the house and like saying things, and people would be moving glasses around. Sometimes when you have a seance, they'll have like a glass that everybody puts their finger on. So I don't really hold a lot of stock in what the spirits that we connected with or didn't connect with. I don't know how much of it was true or not, but I guess what I'm wanting to say is that I always had a healthy respect for the unseen, and I didn't I never took it for granted. I've always had a healthy respect and honor, and wanted to give it its due rights in this world. I think that's probably what I wanted to add from last week. So I'll hand it back over to Rae, because I believe she's got some more experiences. Actually, before I stop talking, I did also want to add that my mother had a near-death experience that she used to talk about a lot, and that was always fascinating to me. And she would talk about ghosts in the nursing homes and in the old hospitals that she used to work in. And yeah, I was always fascinated by those stories. So I love hearing your stories, Rae. I'll pass it over to you again.
Yeah, lots of patients that we successfully resuscitated would come back with near-death experiences. Probably not, maybe 1 in 20. if they were game to talk about it, we'd say, what happened? You were gone for 5 minutes. Did anything happen? And they'd look sheepish and go, oh no, or they'd say, oh, Connie's mother, actually, my friend Connie, what we nursed together, her mum had what did she do? She had a massive heart attack. And I went to see her she was in the coronary care unit. And Connie was there, and her mum was telling Connie that, oh, she said, I don't know what happened. Oh, I didn't have my glasses on, but I could just see everything so clearly. And I saw the doctor over here and the nurse over there. And my eyes were getting bigger, and Connie could see what I was thinking, and she's kicking me under the bed to say, don't say anything, because we knew what had happened. She jumped out of her body and was looking around. That's why she didn't need her glasses. So, yeah, so Leah, lots of NDEs. They're fascinating as well. And the other thing you touched on was Ouija boards, and seances are different to Ouija boards. And I was taught very early on never to touch a Ouija board, or if we did, always have someone that was very experienced in channeling and dealing with spirits in the group, because they said that the spirit coming through, especially because you can't control what you get with a Ouija board, it's not reaching for higher vibrations. You could get someone from any sort of vibration. So the real scary, I want to say low life. I don't know how else to say it. I'll just say low life. So very coarse spirits could come through, and they would usually come through the easiest person in the group. Yeah, they wouldn't pick the experienced one, because experienced people often have lots of big protections, yeah, that keep that sort of spirit away. But yeah, so we were never game. We lived in the nurses' quarters, and everybody had a Ouija board story, because everyone had tried it in their teens, and glasses would fly off the table, or somebody's windows flew open and the curtains blew, and they just ran screaming from the room. And I thought, oh no, that's not for me. That's not for me. Yeah, but I have never had a Ouija board experience, because yeah, I wasn't game. And I always brought my son up knowing what kids are like. I always said to him, whatever you do not touch a Ouija board unless I'm there. I have to be there. So he never did. He doesn't believe in anything, my son. I keep saying to him, are you sure you're my son? Are you sure? But anyway, yeah, so he hasn't. So I chatted to Connie today. We were on the phone for an hour, because I'd forgotten a lot of hospital stories. So between us, we remembered things. We remembered a few things. So we talked about when patients had passed away, and you'd be there. We didn't do the last rites, but we prepared the body to be transported from the ward, which included washing them and removing dressings and drips and stuff, and putting them in a nice sheet and a shroud, and being as dignified as possible. We were very, very aware that to be respectful. We were taught always to treat them as though they were still alive, and many stories of feeling like you're being watched, or and Connie, actually, this happened to her. The patient who died, his name was Ted, and they were turning him and putting him in what were they doing? Wrapping him in a sheet, I think. And he tapped her on the shoulder. The room went freezing cold first, and then she felt this tap on the shoulder, and she just knew. She knew it was him. And she said, it's all right, Ted, we'll look after you. You go now, it's okay. And he did. And the room warmed up. And one of our colleagues, who was a male nurse on night shift, had someone pass away, and they laid them out. They were all wrapped beautifully, ready for because the wardsman would come with a very special trolley to pick them up, to take them to the morgue. And they left the room, and things started flying around in the room and smacking up against the wall. The drinking glass got pushed off the locker, and yeah, I could hear it. They sort of quickly walked past and saw things flying around in this room. And he didn't know what to do, because he's a fairly young registered nurse. And in the end, he said, if you don't stop that, I'm going to call matron. And it stopped. So spirits are scared of matron just as much as nurses were. I thought that was amazing. At the old intensive care unit in Cairns. When I was there, Connie was a nurse. She was an enrolled nurse for 10 years before I got there. She's 13 years older than me. So she had worked in this ICU for longer than when I got there. So when she got there, she was in the room. It's a fairly small ICU with 6 beds, and the roof creaked, like the ceiling creaked. And she said to whoever was working with her, she said, "Oh, did you hear that?" And they said, "Oh yeah, the roof's creaking. That means someone's going to go on this shift." And they said, "That's what happens." So when the roof ceiling creaked, Connie said, "No, they won't. They're all stable. They're all just about ready to go to the ward." And they went, "Yeah, we'll see." And sure enough, someone passed away on that shift. When I worked there, the legend was if a fly landed on a patient, because it's all fully air conditioned, the windows are never open. If a fly lands on a patient, that's the end of them, and that was always true. That might have a biological basis, but anyway, that always worked. There was an old ward called Old Private Medical in the Cairns Hospital that it was gone, demolished by the time I got there. So she was there in the 70s, and there in Old Private Medical, there was a passageway that no one ever went down because it led to a building that no one used anymore. And she said no one went down. She thought, oh, one night on night shift, I'll be brave. And she got about 10 foot down the hallway and went, "Oh, I'm not dumb out of here," because it just was so creepy. Yeah, and then there was a ward. This happened to Connie as well. They had patients in a ward, and in those days, we had no machines to count drips. So all the drips, we used to count the drops because there were 60 drops per mil. Is that right? 60 drops per mil, and you had to time the drops to get the right speed of the drip. So no machines. And as a safety feature, we'd put in a cylinder called a burette in between the bag and the patient. So we'd fill the burette up so that because sometimes if the patient moved, the drip would suddenly run through really fast. Yeah, so we had this burette, and every hour you'd go and refill it so that you knew they got exactly the right amount of fluid. And she went in to fill a burette one day, it was already full. And she said to the patient, "Oh, who filled that up?" She said, "Oh, it was the nurse in the grey uniform with the veil." And Connie was like, "Oh my God," because those nurses hadn't worked for 20 years. So there was a ghost nurse filling up the burettes and in that wall. Oh my God, it's frightening. Now, yeah, we've done it. Now, Connie's a fascinating person, and she used to live on a tugboat, right? So I thought she lived on a yacht, but no, she lived on a tugboat, it's an old tugboat. So they bought it in the late 70s, and Connie and her husband lived on there. So she used to get in a dinghy every day to go to work and row into the wharf and get off. And I don't know, mate, was it walking? I think she walked to the hospital. It was walking distance back then. Yeah, she used to do that every day. And she worked a night shift one night. And maybe I should tell you the history of this tugboat. So at the end of the war, in the mid 1940s, it was tied up to the wharf, and a battleship or something got too close to it and squashed it between the jetty. And it actually went under. So it rolled, and everyone was off the tug except the engineer. He was below decks. It's like a 2-story building. This tug is huge. He said it was 70 feet long. Apparently that's long. Yeah, so it rolled and he drowned. Right. So that happened in somewhere in the 40s. And then Connie and her husband eventually bought it and they lived on it. She worked a night shift. And so you finish at, I don't know, 7 in the morning. And so at 7:30, she rowed her in the dinghy towards the tugboat, and she could see her husband up on deck. And as she got closer, she thought, "Oh, what's wrong with him?" And when she got there, he was visibly shaken. She said, "What happened?" And he said he was asleep in his bunk, and from the bunk he could see the wheelhouse, and something woke him up. And when he looked up, there was someone in the wheelhouse. And he said, there was a bloke in the wheelhouse. I could see him. So he thought, who's on the boat? So he went running to the wheelhouse. And as he got closer, it just dissipated. And it just completely freaked him out. It's like, oh my God. So we think that was probably the engineer still attached to the tugboat. Yeah, righto. Now, so that's the end of my hospital stories. I have got one other thing, but I might let everyone else have a turn and bring it up because it's a really different subject. It's supernatural, but really different, and I'd be very interested in everybody's opinion. So, what do you reckon, Michael? Have you got any stories to add to from last week? It's a hair in my eye.
Not from, I haven't had any supernatural encounters, for want of a better term, in my own personal life. I've certainly been exposed to a lot of stories and hearing, as you said, Ray, hearing people talk about out of body experiences or near death experiences, um, and how that's been. I think one of the acronyms that is used sometimes is STE, spiritually transformative experiences. And they certainly can be for some people. An NDE can be life-changing. And yeah, for other people, they either have no memory of what's occurred, or they say I didn't notice anything, or um so I'm trying to think whether in my own dealings with sort of being unwell and with illness, whether I've had um I'd be interested to hear um more of your sort of ICU related stories, because I know when I was much younger and very ill, I had um my own battles where I was sort of severely or pretty critically ill. But I'm also interested in hearing from Sanji about what his sort of Buddhist background has told him about unseen or supernatural um, realms. I do find the whole idea within sort of Hindu and then Buddhist philosophy of the existence of different lokas or spiritual realms a really interesting one. Um, and I also find it interesting that, there's this whole concept of not a universe, but the multiverse, the whole idea that there are multiple universes, multiple solar systems, multiple galaxies outside of, the universe that we can know and observe. Um, so what do you think, Sanji, about, the supernatural and maybe what you've learnt about the different lokas from a Buddhist perspective?
Okay, I'll tell a few stories. I'll try to make it quick. So, most of these happened when I was a monk and then living far away. And one time I went to a new monastery and I was sleeping there was a cottage. It had a row of cottages actually. And in the night, I felt like the wall suddenly become glass. And then there was this short, dark person who had a face like a bull. I was like, because my bed was very low, no? He crouched down and looked at my face. I saw clearly, and the wall became like a glass. Like, and actually, there's a path that goes to a lake. right next to it. It's a small footpath. And the next morning, I told, because that was the first day I came over there, no? And I asked that monk who was like the in charge of the place, like I saw a weird dream, no? Oh, then he said, our friend said hello to you. I said, which friend? So there, those days there are like they used to put treasures in like water areas, especially gemstones and all, and they used to put somebody like possessed with the treasure. It's a very bad story. They used to take a person, show the treasure, and like kill the person, it seems. And that person, the last thought will be like that. The pirates also used to do something like that, they say. And then the kings and the people also used to do this horrific thing, and they would show the treasure, and before he could, oh, I don't know, he or she, but look aside, they would like end their life. So they get attached to that treasure. So it's like one of those beings, they have a particular name, and he's the one who's in charge of that. So I came new, no, to that place, and he had like really checked on me. And the monk who's there, he knew, because there are two treasures. It seems he doesn't go to dig them or anything like that. He just goes from one place to the other. One is near inside the monastery premises, and the other one is there's like a lake, and where the water, like a bank of the lake, it's kept inside that, it seems. So that's one story. And then then one time we went to like chant to a house, like the chantings, no? And then there was this very pleasant lady, a middle-aged lady. She was like offering us tea and talking to us nicely and everything, and nothing like. Then, oh my goodness, like soon as she started chanting, she just started rocking, no? Like weirdly, she started rocking. They sat on the floor, I think, like not I think, like as respect for monks and all. The clergy usually from all sides they are given a bit of a higher seat, no? And then in this culture, sometimes people put a mat and sit on the floor also. For nuns also it's the same case, monks also same. So then there was these two children, her children actually, yeah. They were in their 19, 20, like that. And then she just started rocking weirdly. And then she started like in a very gruesome voice, like, you, how dare you try to chase me away? And we were like, what? This just this pleasant lady a few minutes ago who was like, then the head monk, he went and spoke to, he said like, re, uh, recite a particular part continuously, yeah? So I'll talk about when the next turn comes, I'll talk about the ROMs and where we can seek help or something like that, or what we should do. But just I'll just spare this for the stories. So that can give idea of the culture and the backgrounds also, Mike. So then what happens? So people go like this and chant and see. So then what happens is like uh, then this monk went and asked like, why are you talking like that? No, is this the way to like talk? And then she was like, oh, it was very different voice. Then he started asking. We also could hear. No, he was curious and we were listening. It was in the early 2000s or something like that. So and this person was like telling, and then asked who it was, and it said like it's her husband's mother, but the mother hates this daughter-in-law, hates her. And then the monk was asking, why are you here? What are you doing? All these things, no? Then said like, it's a very interesting dialogue. Yeah? Then asked like, if you hate her, why are you here? No? She, then the mother said like, who had passed away, said like she's the only one who does good deeds. That's why I'm into her. Then the monk asked, like, if you really love your son, why don't you go into your son? Then she said, like, it's painful for him. See how bad these people are, no beings are, right? They are so attached. And not only that, from the time they got married, she didn't let those two stay together. They have been married. So from time to time they had joined together and they had these two kids also who were like quite elder now, no? like almost 20s, and one is I think was 20. But every time they try to get, not that they were cheating or something like that, she would interrupt, and because she was jealous, like her son, no. And so people who are attached come back like that also. And not only that, it was weird part. The monk asked, like, do you know who those two are near you? Because she's possessed to the like daughter-in-law, right? Oh, and then she asked because the two kids were like now holding their mother, who was possessed by the grandmother, right? And she said, oh yeah, I know this. When they were in their mother's womb, I also was there. That means when they were as the fetus, this being was there also in each one. Then the worst, like it's like a horror story, yeah. And the last part was like when all these conversations went, and oh, there's more. Like, and she roams around, like goes to her children. She has many few children, and within the day she goes around and comes back and but jumps into her body, not the others. Then the monk asked, like, what if we give donation, like offering food and clothing and all, like on behalf of like virtuous people or other people, no, like that. And we offer the merits, and you can be born. Why do you need to stay inside this human body stuck, no? And you are troubling this person, and you are also not good. Then she said, like, no use. No, their merits are not valid. They drink alcohol and they eat meat. This exactly her words. Their merits are not valid, she said. This is not my making or anything. And exactly that being entity's words said like their merits are not valid. After the ceremony, they drink alcohol and they start eating meat. So then it is very interesting. Then finally, of all like the icing on the cake, she said, "There's another person here." Then the monk asked, like, who is that? She said, it's my mother. So there were like two beings clustered together, and they have been going and doing all these things. That's another story. Yeah. And there was another time. Yeah, one, two. Yeah. There was another time, like one person, he had donated all his wealth to his children. Huh? And he had a small house and he was living there. But at the end of his last time, he had heard that the children were discussing how to split the last property, and he had felt very upset about it. Then he came back. He was like not as their father, but really in a very bad way. Nobody could stay there, like everything. Huh? There are more stories now. I remember. Come on, no, like Ray, I think I'm gonna beat you now. Just kidding. And then, yeah, like so it can then finally they like these offerings were done on behalf of the nuns and the monks and Buddha and all these things, or given to like animals. Those also can be given like donation, no, for sick people. All these are merits, not only the clergy. So these merits offered. Then finally ask like, what do you want? So this is an entity. No, it's not it doesn't have a physical body. All it wanted was the deed kept on a tray and hand it over. Crazy. And it cannot even get it. Just to give the deed on a tray, because that was the thing that person was caught up in. So when they placed the tray on a tray, the deed, which was a piece of paper, and just gave, this entity went. So that's another story, yeah. And then one time there was this monk. So not only these normal civilians, even religious people can get caught. And this monk, he was doing like voodoo stuff. And he was very powerful back in the day. Huh? And he used to use like other entities to do all these black magic things and then harm people, all these things. But what happens after they die? Because if they can possess somebody, that their mind is already weak. Though they can do it, or they use these mantras like things, but on the dark side, then they tie up these entities. But when they die, the tables change according to karma. So you receive what you give, no? Then what happens in the weakest moments, those entities come and show up, and his mind is already inclined towards that. Then what happened is like nobody could live in that, especially in that monastery, in his premises. The tables would go flying, and like nobody could stay there. If somebody tried to stay there, they'll be pulled off the beds. Everything would slam. Then there was a student, it seems, who could try to catch them, and they go and put them in the sea, like that things they do. But if somebody like the genie, they put them in a bottle, concrete it, and go and put it in a deep sea. But some people find it, they open the bottle, again they come. Or they make somebody, like open the bottle for them, and they are released. But it's very bad to do like that also. But some really don't go. They don't want, even if you offer merits. I'll tell you, there's another story which I'll finish with that. And then there was another person who could tackle this person, like being who knew witchcraft or like voodoo, who was a student of that monk, but he was a civilian. Then what happens is like he came to like catch this entity. Then in the exact monk's voice, like just like his teacher, he spoke with the name, telling, "How dare you try to come and catch me? Who do you think you are?" And then what happened was he was the student. No, he has that student mentality, especially in this dark tradition. They'll like really try to tie them up and keep them like in their grasp. So the student said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Venerable. I don't, I'm no, please forgive me." So he surrendered, and then nothing happened. Oh, more stories are coming up now. And then there was like people who did witchcraft. They would go to the cemeteries and collect like corpses, sometimes young children's corpses. Yeah, it's very horrific. And they would hang it in like the smoke and dry it up, and then possess it with a very dangerous entity. And one time, and they also try to kill each other just to show off their powers, or like how powerful they are, or they say, "Okay, anybody challenge me." So so you just see like it said like you don't see anything coming, then you find the person dead. Uh, or you just see a knife or something coming, and that's the end of the story. Then what happens was this person was living alone. He used to go to the cemeteries, it seems, at late night and all these stupid things. And then uh, what happened was like one day like he was planning to like a attack and finish the life of another black magician in another area, like to show how powerful he was. Then for many days they had not heard of him. So suddenly I don't think he had a wife or anything like that. Then when they came to check, he was dead, and there was like a smoked body of a child, uh, something like a carcass nearby, but he was dead, and there was a knife, it seems. So what had happened was that person had been more powerful than him, and he had used a protection. Then when that happens, it backfires. He didn't think like that person was powerful. That entity had gone and come back to him. So it's very weird and very crazy. And usually they don't end up in. So the last story is also another. This was in a monastery, and this young man used to come with a group of people like Mike. They used to come and like help. But soon as he came to the monastery premises, his voice and everything changed. Uh, it was weird, no? Like, and then the others told us and the monks, and then he was called and then asked, no? Then he started talking differently. Then what had happened was like he was possessed by a nun actually, a elderly nun. The story is not in a bad way, but what had happened was like there was an elderly nun in her last stages of life. So what he had done was, in good terms, he had asked them to bring her to his house. His wife is also there, and they both have taken care of her until her death. But his wife was always complaining, it seems. Oh, we had to do this, we had to do that. Maybe they were cleaning her and all these things. No, taking care means, especially on a deathbed, right? And she had heard this and she had become very angry with his wife. And not only that, she had a huge affection towards him. Now she became an entity and came, and now she wants to kill him and take him back. So she had made her, not she, like the entity had made him addicted to alcohol. She wanted to kill him. She had hidden his medicines. He takes some for some crucial illness he has. Not only that, she had put in like the doorstep and places, and she had used like a filter or something like that, like a blind. They always step over it, but they cannot see. Even in inside the store, she had put some things like that. So then what happens was, like, she's already always possessed into him. But when they came to the monastery premises, she could not be like that. Then she started telling the story. I'm trying to keep it super short. Then she was asked, like, what would you like to do? Why are you being like this? So you can communicate. And they talk through the medium, no? Or the person who's possessed. And it's not that person, it's also female voice now. Elderly female voice. Then ask, like, why are you suffering like that? Then inside this is like guts and blood and all. You can go to a beautiful place, no? The heavens or somewhere. You don't have to suffer like this. And he already has a wife. And you are a nun, no? You are a very respectful person. Just because this happened to you in your dying moment, that doesn't mean you have to be stuck here. Then she agreed. She or the entity agreed. Then what happened? No, she said, then they asked, like, what for to offer to the nuns and the monks, like a offering. What would you like to, and what are the things you like to eat when you were alive? Then she gave some specific food. Okay, and then this was done actually. The robes offered, the food was offered. So monks and nuns, they take priority, and I also have done that to many people, like help them to their past relatives and all. So some places I felt like suddenly my knees and the ankle started hurting. And this was another one. Then I asked, like, when your father comes from that person who came to ask help, how do you feel? She said, my hands and the ankles and the. I think I told, like, I think your father was here. No, that because I, for no reason, it just started hurting. Uh, So I'm sure he was around. And then I was not afraid or anything like that. And so then what the crazy part was, like, everything was set. And then on that particular day, she was so angry and pointing at the wife and telling in a very bad language, like, this bitch, or even worse, try to punish me. I'm not going. This bitch tried to punish me, like, in even more harsh language terminology. And like she then what had happened was, it was like 1 week, no? Within that time, this wife had gone to a like a witch doctor. Uh, Then he had tried to tie her and put another entity who was powerful than her and taken her far away. Uh, Then what this entity had done was, it had come back. She said, I came back though I was taken away, and I wanted to teach a lesson. And this witch doctor, these are rural places, far away, he brews illicit liquor, it seems. I taught him a lesson. What she had done was, she had gone to the nearest police station. It's weird, all this. She had, like, been like a human form and said in that particular place, yeah, it has really happened. In that particular place, there's a person who's having moonshine. I'll take you there. She had got onto the jeep with the policeman. came all the way and showed the place, and nobody knows who it was. They thought it was a village or somebody, but no. And I said she was very happy. I taught that fellow a good lesson. Now he's inside bars. So don't you dare mess with me. Then then the wife said, "Oh, sorry, sorry, I didn't mean." So again there was another offering next week. And they said nothing will happen, don't worry. We will take responsibility. We'll see that this wife doesn't do foolish things no more. You please go, no? And then okay, and that day finally, like everything when my wife didn't do any crazy things or anything. Then finally she said like, "Oh, I'm so happy and I won't be troubling you no more." Yeah, I told it in a harsh language, yeah, but like, "You bugger, you, I won't be troubling you no more," like that. And then she said, "Wait, wait, before I go, I have to tell you something." And then she said, "Ask somebody. There are his medicine is hidden in a particular place." And there near the doorstep there is, I'll remove the blindfold. It was like a magical blindfold. And under the doorstep or near the carpet, dig in that floor, I have put some medicines. I want it will kill a person, no? So don't ask somebody to take them. And inside the stove also there are some things. I'll make them visible. Huh? Ask somebody to go and take it and slowly don't touch with their hands and put it in a bag and throw it to a river. Then the power goes away. Huh? So actually they sent quickly to young people. They went and did that and came back. So it took a bit of more time. Then finally the wife had opened her mouth again. And I thought, oh my gosh, like she's like, then she said, "Oh, we are not sure. Like, will you really go?" Uh, like, uh, uh, then she came back and she said, "Look, now I'm in a good place. If I was my previous self, I could have broken one of these walls or put down a huge branch to show my presence. But now I am in a good place. I cannot do those things. But you all never worry again. You are free from me." And she went. So there are so many stories, things like that. So you can understand, no, Mike, the culture and all these things. There are people who do dark stuff, but in Buddhism or good people, they never try to do those things. But because of blind faith and all these things, or some people to like attack other people, they do this voodoo with entities, which is very dangerous. And they try to take work and they act like psychics or mediums, and then they say predictions, all these things, but it's very dangerous. And then soon as they come, maybe it's a past relative, they come and even possess, and then first they start, but they are not their father or mother or grandfather or something. This is a different entity. They are born in another place. So even if they come in a good intention to help, they bring their natural nature out. Then they'll be like a ghost or a demon or whatever they are. That qualities start coming up out. Then usually that family gets ruined. Many places I have seen this, because if they are trying to help everybody, they should help the family first, right? So you see them very in huge poverty with very bad illnesses. The family situation is very bad. First it was flourishing, then now those places look very gloomy and dirty, and yeah, it looks very, the vibration is very dark. So but there are things that are done, but it's not all like everywhere like that. But these are like random stories that happen, but through offering of merits and all actually. But there are some entities that doesn't like want to do that even. They don't want to go. Okay, I'll hand it over to Anthea. Eh?
Thank you, Sanji. Fascinating stories. I could listen for hours and hours, and I think that you and Ray need to co-author a book on the unseen realms. Be a fascinating tale of different stories. I don't really have anything more to add. I would be just happy listening and listening, but we're sort of getting to the end of our session, so we might start to wind up. Yeah, go ahead.
And yeah, about places where people can help or get help or something. Yeah.
Okay, so in terms of places where you can get help, Sanji is probably the most, he would come to, like, if something like this happened to me, I would probably be turning, Sanji would be one of the people I would be turning to because he has experience in this area. The other thing you might want to turn to if you have a particular faith or a tradition. So, for example, I'm a Muslim person, so I could turn to an imam or a scholar of Islam and express my issues and ask for help with that. Certainly a reputable, trusted person. That would be my advice initially. I would love to hear what the others have to say, what Rae, Sanji, Michael have to say about accessing help. Okay, so that's basically what I would say. They would be my go-to. So I'd be consulting with Sanji and I'd be consulting with someone who's a Muslim scholar or imam, which is a leader, or a sheikh who's an elder who has dealt with these sorts of situations and has understanding of the Quran and the ways of the religion. That's what I would be doing. I'll hand it over to Rae now.
I have a really dark story. Maybe I'll tell it next time if we do a part 3, because I had my last husband was possessed and probably still is. So yeah. We couldn't help him because we couldn't get him to sit still. There was no compliance in him at all. But I went for help with spiritualist people, like the spiritualist church was very strong in Cairns because we were living in Cairns, and I had lots of contacts with those. Yeah, so they would come as a team, like they would, but we just couldn't keep him still. He was so aggressive and anti-paranoid and anti everything. There was no way he would consent to anything. He would have just run away. So that was really hard. And he probably still does have that. So he went that way because what did he do? Not really sure. But he got into marijuana really heavily. And he just had one of those personalities that couldn't handle it. So he tried it as a young person, like in his late teens, and got a bit paranoid. And his mother slapped him around and said, you can't do this. And then when I was pregnant, he got into it big time again because he went from having a 9-to-5 job with people around to a mowing business where he was on his own all the time, and just that weaker sort of personality, and those drugs set him off. But I'm pretty sure he got into other things as well. It just would freak me out. We'd go to court because we're trying to get divorced from this person, and because you couldn't rationalize with him at all. So he'd be in round the table, talk his solicitors and my solicitors, and he came in and he just looked like a different person. It freaked me out. Like his face looked longer, and oh my God, it was scary. It was terrible, but he was just awful. And one of my spiritualist friends said he may have that they thought that he was being possessed by a gypsy woman, which doesn't explain the long, ugly face. But that woman wanted my baby, wanted my son that I was trying to get away from him with. Yeah, so that was scary. So my advice would be spiritualist church. I wouldn't go to a Catholic priest. I don't think they've got sort of book learning, but I don't think their exorcisms are terribly effective from the movies I've watched. No, from the story stories I've heard. So that would be my advice. And just keep going until you find a spiritual person that is able to help. What do you reckon, Michael? Where would you stand?
Sorry, one moment, please. Ray,
Oh,
you said you
yeah.
had another thing you wanted for us to also to have
It's
idea.
huge. It's huge. Anthea wants to wrap it up. Like I want to I want to talk about Nardi leaves, and I want to talk about Reverend Bill McDonald, who can be in two places at once. And it's like a whole different ball game of
Uh-huh.
supernatural stuff. So
Okay.
We
I
can
can
have a
do
part three if you like.
Yeah.
if you want to go that way, or
I,
but there's
I'm
a
I'm happy to. The other thing that we could potentially do is Ray could be the guest speaker and we could interview Ray like we've done, Sanji and I have done before. So that could be something that we've done. And we've done it with you, Ray, haven't we? We've interviewed you very early. Yeah. So that's we can work that out anyway. Mm.
yeah. But if I bring up Nardi leaves, there's half an hour gone. Let alone Reverend Bill. Let alone the
Back again.
oh, thank God. I don't know how to be a host. Yeah. And I could talk about all the rescue. When we used to sit in circles, it was like a spiritualist, wasn't a spiritualist church, but it was a spiritualist gathering. And yeah, we had
Uh-huh.
a trance medium who would lead we'd do a meditation in the circle, and she would bring through incredible. We'd start off with a high being, and then as the energy dropped, we'd bring less evolved, and right at the end, we'd do a rescue. So she'd bring through someone that was stuck. So yeah, that's a whole other ball game as well.
Mhm.
Amazing thing.
All right. Well, how about we wrap up with closing thoughts for this evening, but we can certainly continue on this sort of theme with future sessions or other sessions, whatever people are interested in and want to talk about. I'm happy to listen to anything.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So I'll pass it over to Michael. Michael, would you like to share your sort of closing, wrapping up thoughts for this evening, please?
My concluding thoughts are essentially in sympathy with the ideas and sort of sentiments that both you and Ray just expressed. I would also just counsel anybody who is looking for help or guidance to go to maybe a cleric or a religious figure that they trust. I'm I'm not being denominational about that, so it could be a rabbi, it could be an imam, it could be just somebody that you do trust or have a decent, hopefully, rapport with, so you're able to open up to that person um and seek their guidance. And I guess, and again, I mean this in a fairly non-denominational way. Maybe also the benefits of if that person says, would you like me to include you in my prayers? To maybe say, yes, that'd be lovely. Thanks for thinking of me, and I'd appreciate all the prayers and good wishes, that you're able to send in my general direction. Um, but yeah, I think that's good advice. And also more generally, I would encourage anyone who was struggling not to isolate themselves too much. And again, I mean that in a really general way. So if they do have friends around, if they do have family around, to talk with people that they trust, to try and keep those connections going and the lines of communication as open as possible. I think that's likely to be beneficial. Yeah. So I'll pass it on to either Anthea or Sanji or for some final thoughts.
Yeah, Sanji can give us his final thoughts, I think.
Okay, thank you. So, in many ancient traditions and all, they talk about 31 planes of existence. Just one. This is just one. There are multiple 31, 31, 31, countless. So it's like 11 sensual realms with human and 6 divine. Then there's the animal kingdom. There are like these places, and there are even demons, ghosts, places like that. Also, even hells are mentioned in many traditions. So it's not eternal as such, like some people, because they can come back, but it will take a long time. And according to what they do, like if you grab a hold onto a rock, you won't float, right? You will sink. But if you have a float or a boat, either you can cross the river or you can at least float, right? So it's like that. But if you grab hold of a rock, you'll sink, no? So according to that, the death consciousness and all this apply, and especially their livelihood. So there are like 11 from 31. There are 11 sensual realms with the human realm, animal kingdom, and then there are like 8 hells mentioned. They have their subcategories also. eh? And then there are like 16. If people die with jhana, there are specific places where they can be born. These are called fine material realms. Rupa Loka. 16 are mentioned. And then there are 4, they are called immaterial, arupa loka. If they go for the fifth jhana, sixth jhana, seventh jhana, eighth jhana, those people who die with that mind frame should have a place to be born. So there are so many possibilities and all these things. So coming back to these things, what I have realized and all, we should never be afraid. And if our habitual patterns are weak and all, there's a big tendency, like people who take alcohol or like how like greedy for meat. I'm not asking everybody to be such particular way, but it seems like that. Or you have try to like, or if greed overtakes them or anger overtakes them, their mind becomes naturally very weak. Or like caught up in too many activities, no, like sensual, they take it to the next realm, no, and even things like intoxications, drugs, and all, the mind becomes very weak. So anything can go in, no, even if after they take, we think they're like zombies, and so we see people, no, like half broken, like their posture and all, it seems like in a very awkward position some stay, no, but they are very easily penetratable. So one good thing is if people can keep like at least 5 hours, don't kill, don't steal, don't cheat, don't lie, don't take intoxication, that's very strong. That brings very moral aspects of a human. They can do it higher also, powerfully, and don't get caught up and don't do silly things like people like try to mess around with Ouija boards or this voodoo stuff and all. It's you are inviting trouble. You see many instances that happens if it's in a safe thing, but for what reason, no? And it is said they are everywhere, and some are dark, some are in a sad situation, helpless situation. Some there are entities, so beings, or they are very good, huh? Like angels, like those, there are good ones, huh? So they help people, but for them to help also, we should be good. Otherwise, it's not like dirt mixed with dirt, good mixes with good things. That's how it is. And as per thing, if you are in any kind of faith or belief, if you can keep some specific prayer or mantra or something always in hand, you become so fluent with it, you can just use it anytime, any place, and you can test it and see also. And even in specific times, you can use it. We also have, we call it a special mantra, and then you can use it just you get fluent with it. It just takes a few seconds of it. With the mind, you can say it faster. You just keep it repeating in your mind, and it little fear even comes, you just put it out. Huh? So the fear factor is a big thing. Huh? And then, like Mike said, like everybody said, because there are psychological disorders. So I remember there was a person who went to commit suicide because he thought his lost friend was always around. Huh? He was a driver. He saw he had a good friend. He passed away suddenly. And he saw like his friend would come and sit in the vehicle. He saw with the mirror and he used to converse with him. And then finally, he was working in a faraway place. On the last day, he went to his home, spent time with his family. In the night time, the wife found he was not there. He came to visit them after a while because he's working outside now in another city. And usually he comes on holidays or something like that. So, but he suddenly came and he said, I want to spend time with you all. And then the wife suddenly got anxious and everything. She like screamed and like she was searching on her. Then this guy came back with a bottle in hand. Then it was like a pesticide bottle. He was going to commit suicide. But luckily he could not open the cap of the bottle. He came back to pick a knife, like so he could open the seal of the bottle, and everybody grabbed it. And then he had a psychological disorder because of the trauma that happened. He thought his friend was coming, and then later the friend was asking him to come to his place where he's living, existed. So he really thought it started working. Then he met a psychologist and all, and then he became okay. Otherwise, this person would have lost his life here. And there are dark things in places that sometimes try to pull you. They need humans to eat as their food. And there are things like that also. Yeah, in faraway places, the demons and all. So they try to lure people like that, or like let them drop off a cliff or get stuck in a pit or a cave. uh, they make different sounds, and like somebody's trapped inside, you go there, you fall into the pit, or you somebody grabs hold of you. So be careful. And according to, because even in religious practices, they have specific wordings which are actually powerful. And those entities, they have known these things at least when they were humans or something. So when you use those words, it could be verses of a specific book, Bible, Quran, or anything. Even the monks as Buddhists, they use verses in the scriptures. Yeah, so those things, those entities, and some things, if they are legit, they start like their bodies and all start burning. They cannot stay. One time I was there in a very remote place, sorry, and a person came. No, I didn't know. Huh? And I'm ashamed to say it was another monk, and I didn't know. I was the evening chanting, no, and there's a beautiful verse like loving kindness, but it's a sutta. It's very like it's like saying may all beings be well, and all they it classifies different types animals with two legs or multiple legs or four legs or multiple legs, the longer ones, the shorter ones, the up in the air, the sky. It just is that, nothing else. Then this monk came, and not that all monks are doing this. I'm just telling this happened very all for 20 years. Just two, I've just met only a few, for 20 years. But this monk came, and then he came, and so as hospitality I offered. But he said I was getting ready for the evening chant. So then I said, would you like a cup of tea? Or like, then he said, no, no, now you are getting, I had prepared everything. Then I said, let's have it afterwards, no? He just came, he said, I came close by, but it was evening time, no? It was very awkward also. Then when I was doing the chanting, I just went on, no? I didn't know. Then later when we were having a cup of tea, just plain tea, and he said, did you see me shake? And then I said, no. I asked, why would you shake? No. He said, like when you were chanting the loving kindness sutta, I was shaking. Oh, come on, who shakes? No, like loving kindness, no? And then there was a cat that was abandoned in the monastery. I could not shake my hand and hit the cat because it was, uh, how to say, devouring on beetles. Like it was eating beetles, no, that came to the light because it was a bit off place. And then the cat was jumping and eating those beetles, like, and I was chanting loving kindness, no, so I cannot take a slip or something and hit the cat, no? And like, because I was chanting the good thing, no, I cannot pull the cat or something, and but I could see it like far away, in like beyond my reach, eating this and the animal, no, and then I was like, why would you like even like shake? This was something nice, right? Huh? Uh, so he said, no, no, when you're chanting, but it's to see he does this stuff. So they shake even if they are entities inside. Then he said, would you like to join the holy divine union? I said, hell no, no, I don't want to. If you shake with just a good verse, why the heck would I join like a me also shake for everything? Like a milkshake or something. I'll be like, no, a blend or something. If he's shaking for a good verse, uh, then you asked me to join your holy band. He said, we have a divine holy band. Would you like to try to come? He had come to do some voodoo stuff to a house nearby. They are like firing like with each other with voodoo. So he had come to cut it off. Like some other people, they were relatives, no, like doing this stuff to each other. So if we have those kind of things near us, uh, so that can help. So and in different religions and people, there are people who are specialized in doing those things also. But if you have a wholesome life, wholesome practice, and if you don't become afraid, huh, use some tactic. But some places there are entities, they are very cruel and they don't want to go. They are so obsessed with the place or something like that. They don't want nobody. Even if you try to tell them and all, it doesn't work like that. They cannot. They if you try to offer them merits and try to free them, they are not in a receptive place. That also happens. Like if they have a cancer, if somebody has a cancer, even if you give tons of food, they cannot eat, right? Like that, if you offer meals, these people cannot receive if they want even. That's very sad, eh? So they'll have to wait their time, and when it shifts, then it will be a time they can receive. So, but we should have a whole, and we are very powerful as human beings. And if you can keep it pure, that will take the fear factor also away. And if you can reach more and more clarity of the mind, purity of the mind, then the fear factor also disappears. And then we'll have compassion towards those beings also. But not that you are trying to heal everybody, all these beings. You cannot finish like that. And sometimes you are inviting trouble. So even if we do that, we do it in a general way. We do it in a general way, but like not specifically. And some people, even in meditation, they start seeing and they start specifically trying to help. But then more and more and more and more come. And not only that, their intentions that led to a pure mind state start shifting. And then their ego and all they are so caught up in that. So we do it in a general way. If somebody really needs some help and comes to help, asking for help, we do that. But we don't go chasing after that also. So these are things people can do, but just see, like if you think it's a bit abnormal and all, it's even good to see how your mental state is also of this person also, and how they are. Because sometimes because of psychological disorders also, people have hallucinations. These kind of things also happen. But if we are pure and we try to move towards the more and more pure side of our life, we can resolve many, many things. And you can use all that good help. Not like you try to counter and some these witch doctors, sorry, what they do is to counter, they use another powerful entity. And they ask you to bury something in your property. That is with even a banana, eh? That's crazy. Like they can ask you to just bury some fruits or something in a premises just for your protection. But that is with the entity. Then what happens is that entity or the witch doctor sometimes puts an entity on purpose that brings you after a short time more trouble. At first it blocks the one that the other person did, but he is like a in a way like this modern medicines and all, like you need to come back to him because again you think the opposite people are doing, but it's that doctor whom you went to find the help now. He placed another entity who is bringing trouble for you or your family again. And when people start this route, it's not ending. It drains them of their funds and all and makes them very poor. And these people who call themselves healers or anything, I don't know what they call them, or witch doctors or anything, uh, or they become very rich, but in very bad ways. So yeah, we be careful. If we can make our mind stronger in the pure side and never be afraid also. And don't try to mess around with it. Uh, and without, it's like inviting just trouble. Not that we have to be afraid of it. We can find now there's so much internet and all these details. You can find details about that. But if you are really trying to go to with somebody who's really used to those things, who has like good protection, no? But some are not called for, no? Unnecessary trouble. And you're just inviting trouble in. Okay, then, Anthea.
Thank you, Sanji. Thank you, Rae. Thank you, Michael. Thanks so much for your valuable stories, experience, and advice for people. I really value it. So just recapping what Michael and Sanji and Rae were saying. So if you feel that you're in trouble, seek help, trusted help. And basically that can be through counseling, it can be mental health support, it can be through a faith, a trusted like leader of a faith that you know, a person that you trust, who you feel will listen to you, trusted friend. Just make sure that you take care of yourself and you do ask for help, and don't try and do it on your own. So it's been a fascinating talk. I've learned so much, and I'll be very interested to explore and to hear what Rae has to say about her topics in future sessions. But for everyone now, stay safe and protect yourselves, and may God protect you all and lead you and embrace you with light and love and peace and mercy on your journeys. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Well, thank you,
Anthea.
everybody. Have a good night
Thanks.
and a good rest. And don't be afraid after ghost stories. Have a good night.
I'm going to go and hug my cat.
No, we do some loving kindness and then you just fall to sleep like that. And yeah, those kind of practices are so good, eh? Like it says like yeah, Devata Manusa Anampiyoti Amatunsan. Amanusa is all these entities and all. They also start loving you. In a good way, yeah. So don't worry, just do a little bit of loving kindness and go to sleep. Eh? Okay, then talk to you all soon. Have a good night and a good rest. And keep warm. Eh?
Take care. Thank you.
Okay, see you.
Bye-bye.
Good
Take
night.
care.
Good night. Afternoon.